Good morning, Drum Technique Academy family. It's time for this week's Q&A lesson. So, first of all, big thank you goes out to everyone that posted a question. We got many different questions ranging from foot technique all the way to hand technique and some concepts. So, foot technique, we're going to discuss the ankle technique. So, one of the big questions is ankle technique and muscle involvement, muscle group involvement. That's like the first big topic. Second big topic, pedal settings and especially spring tension. That one is really important. We're going to talk about spring tension and how to find the perfect spring tension for yourself. It kind of drives me crazy if drummers try to sell their pedal settings as the perfect pedal settings for everyone, because that's just not true. We are all different, we all use different techniques, but even if we just like talk about the ankle technique, for example, the perfect spring tension for me, that works best for me, is not going to be the same as the perfect spring tension for you. Again, because we are all different, and one factor that no one seems to talk about is body weight. I'm weighing in at 170 pounds. The spring tension for me that works best for me is not going to be the same as the spring tension for someone who's weighing in at 200 pounds, for example. And my spring tension, 170 pounds, is going to be too much for someone that's just weighing in at 150, for example. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can easily set up your spring tension for yourself. Actually it takes just like 2 or 3 minutes to find the spring tension that works best for you. You kind of want this perfect equilibrium of spring tension working for you, but not against you. If it's too high, you have to work against the spring. If the spring tension is too low, you have to do more of the work, which is also not what we want. I'm going to show you how I find the spring tension for myself. Again, takes just a couple of minutes. And in the second part of this video, we're going to talk about the switch grip technique. So we're going to talk about how to first develop it, how to work on the wrist turning motion in French grip, because that's not that easy actually in the beginning to learn that one. And we're going to talk about the topic of applying extra pressure from your thumb in French grip. And that's going to be it. Alrighty, the first question from Ethan about the ankle technique. In regards to ankle technique, something I've noticed here and there is on occasion a random stroke in a sequence will not hit quite as hard. For example, in a 16th note run, a hit will fall either just shy of the bass drum head or with slightly less power. I understand it is more to do with controlling the rebound, but could this also be a result of too much or too little spring tension? Yeah, so Ethan, thank you for that question. Actually, it's not about the spring tension, it's about muscle group involvement. Since we are talking about the ankle technique, short recap, with the ankle technique you just want to use your calf muscle. So no upper leg involvement, no hip flexor, no glutes and no hamstrings. And you also don't want to use or activate your shin muscle, the tibialis anterior. So ankle technique looks something like this. Double bass. So even let's start out with the beta swing. The first thing that I can recommend you to do is the following. If you're using a double bass pedal and you're practicing with one foot at a time, then it's always a good idea to use the second beta that's not swinging back and forth as kind of a reference point. In this example, I don't have a double pedal right here, but you get my point. If you're just playing with your right foot and the left beta is not moving back and forth, actually the left beta is kind of your reference. You can use that one as reference point that you can check, okay, is my beta swing constant? In this case, at this tempo I got a 90-degree beta swing. And you can always check back and forth. But even the really important thing is that I personally think that you are involving different muscle groups. So it's not just your calves doing all of the work. It's also other muscle groups that are kind of involved from time to time. And this manipulates the beta swing as well. Let me show you what I mean real quick. If I'm playing just eighth notes with my right foot and suddenly I start to incorporate my hip flexor, so I'm lifting the weight of my full leg off the pedal, this thing right here happens. So eighth notes just using the ankle technique. And now I'm going to use my hip flexor. You see that one? If I lift and stops in between. So if I just use a quick contraction of my hip flexor and I lift the weight of my leg off the pedal, this influences the beta swing. So if I lift the weight of my foot off the pedal, I'm kind of like losing touch with the pedal and I'm losing power, like in this case. On the other hand, if I apply extra pressure from my glutes and hamstrings onto the pedal, then I decrease the beta swing. So right now, my upper leg is relaxed. Now I'm gonna contract my glutes and my hamstrings and push this way the beta stays closer to the bass drum head, which I want at higher tempos. If I want to play fast, I'm gonna need those muscle groups. But this kind of manipulates the beta swing. So I'm pretty sure that you're using muscle groups in your upper leg that you don't want to use, especially when you're first starting out using the ankle technique. Again, the main goal in the beginning when you start learning the ankle technique is to relax your upper leg, just getting used to that beta swing, just using your calves, no shin muscle, no tibialis anterior, no hip flexor, no glutes and no hamstrings. Same for the left foot, double base. One other thing that I would like to add is that, as you know, I always like to use a pretty heavy beta or a regular beta with an extra beta weight. Like in this example, I got an extra beta weight on the beta. Actually for me, you know, if I want to change the beta swing, actually if I want to interrupt this kind of beta swing back and forth, actually this takes more effort than just to keep on playing. So even my second tip would be to use an extra beta weight, just to get used to that constant beta swing and kind of to store this to your muscle memory. Next question from Peter. My personal suspicion is that I'm lifting my leg in the air while I'm playing, and I'm not sure how much pressure I should apply on the pedal. Yeah, Peter, actually when it comes to the ankle technique, just like you mentioned it, you don't want to use the muscle groups in your upper leg, you just want to use your calves. When we're talking about tempos from 150 to 200, if you have a problem with your balance, actually this already, just like you mentioned it, this tells me that you're lifting the weight of your leg with your hip flexor, which is not what we want. You want the exact opposite, you want to relax your upper leg. So let's start with a short demonstration of double bass. So Peter, when you're using the ankle technique, and if you're like lifting the weight of your leg off the pedal in a way that you're also losing balance, this tells me that you're not really using the ankle technique 100%. It's kind of a mix. With the ankle technique, you want to relax your upper leg. And if I do so, I'm gonna switch to the foot cam right now. If I'm using the ankle technique, you know, I'm using a contraction of my calves. I start to raise my heels. In this kind of position, that's like my ready position for the ankle technique. As you can see, this doesn't affect my balance at all, so I can lean forward or back. I'm centered and my upper body is not affected by me being in the starting position for the ankle technique. And also when playing, you know, doesn't matter if I'm leaning forward or back, that doesn't affect my technique at all. So if as soon as you start to play double bass, if you tend to lean back, this tells me yes, that you're using your hip flexor, you're lifting the weight off of the pedal and you don't want to do that. Alrighty, next question by Marcus. How do I experience a too tight spring tension, especially on the weak foot? Would you recommend to loosen it a little bit and let the other one untouched, or go equally with both? Okay, so more than one question. Let's start with the first one. How do I experience a too tight spring tension? Yeah. So that's the topic that I mentioned in the beginning. How to find the spring tension that works best for you. Like I said earlier, you know, the most important thing is actually your body weight. You kind of want this perfect balance between spring tension and the weight of your upper and lower leg, because with the ankle technique, the weight of your leg is resting on the pedal. And you know, there's one simple trick that you have to do. It takes like 2 or 3 minutes to set up your pedals that way, and then you're good to go. So let's start with your main foot, your right foot. Here's what you have to do to set up the spring in a way that it does the work for you.